Hello, what is going on, everybody? How are y'all doing today? I hope you're doing good. I hope everything that you're striving for in life is going well, all that good stuff. A funny thing happened to me yesterday. I was at the gym, I was lifting, and they turned on the USA versus England game at the gym. Because, the gym has TVs where they can keep you entertained while you're lifting if by some reason you forgot your headphones. And as soon as they turn the game on, this guy in the gym yells out, "Oh, let's turn on some real entertainment." I don't know what he was trying to go for or who he was trying to make laugh, but everybody in the gym just turned and looked at him like he was crazy. And from that point on, I don't think I saw him the rest of my workout. I think he had to leave, but I just figured it was just an awkward joke. It was an awkward time, and I'm just going to go out and say it. Don't be that dude at the gym that thinks they're a comedian, because it'll make everybody uncomfortable. But back to that USA game that was on at the gym. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked about how I'm kind of not the biggest fan of Team USA women's soccer because they come off as extremely arrogant and don't show respect to a lot of their competition. So I've been on this trend of whoever versus Team USA, right? And granted, I'm not from America, so I can kind of make this claim that, I want to see these other teams beat this dominant juggernaut. Although dominance in sports is needed, the World Cup's a bit different. You like to see, other teams get in there. And so England was playing Team USA. And they had a chance to score late in the game around the 70th or so minute, and a through ball was in on goal. And the girl would go on to score. However, every goal goes under replay review. And on replay review, they deemed that she was offsides. Now, they showed this replay on TV, and even some of the broadcasters said it was close, and maybe it was so close that they couldn't overturn it, and yet they overturned it. And then later in the game, England had another chance on goal, and the girl looked like she just whiffed on the goal scoring opportunity. But again, it went to replay review, and it deemed that it was a penalty because on her pullback to follow through with the shot on goal, one of the American defenders clipped her and she fell. So replay review had two big instances in this game. She would go on to miss the penalty kick, so at that point England just deserved to lose. But replay review had a big imprint on this game, and it kind of follows into this whole trend of where we see replay in sports going in the future. I think back to the NFL and the pass interference that happened between the Saints and the Rams, which would eventually let the Rams go on to the Super Bowl because of a grossly missed pass interference. Replay didn't have a resolution in that because they never went to replay. They never saw the play again, and who knows why the refs didn't call it. But now the NFL has instituted a pass interference replay rule where that can go under replay and be checked. The NBA has now instituted a coach's challenge that kind of works similarly to the NFL, where that a coach can challenge a play, and then from that point on, if the ruling's overturned, it's overturned, but if not, the coach loses a timeout. All of this to say that replay is a big part of big-time sports now. And it's not going anywhere as much as you may like it or not like it. I'm just here to tell you guys that I hate it personally. It's one of my least favorite things, and I feel that this coach's challenge in the NBA will just make things worse. The NBA late in game is already slow enough. They replay everything under 2 minutes. They see who the ball went out off of, frame by frame, second by second, heck, millisecond by millisecond. And then now you're giving the coach a challenge to instill more replay review. So now you can see if it's a block or a charge. And I just hate replay review. The reason being is referees don't see the calls in slow motion. They don't see it happen at a frame by frame second. They make the call based on real time. Think back to the NBA Finals in 2018, where LeBron had a block charge call that was changed from a blocking foul on Kevin Durant to a charge on LeBron, which gave the Warriors the ball back. That was changed because the refs were able to see it frame by frame, second by second. Big time moment drastically taken from LeBron, and we all know how that game ended. Think about the national championship game between Virginia and Texas Tech. There was a controversial call where the ball was poked out in overtime, and they saw it frame by frame, second by second. The defender poked it out of the offensive player's hands, but then the offensive player's fingernail was still on the ball while it was going to go out of bounds. And it's calls like that where in the heat of the moment, that's off the defender. He poked it out of my hands to send the ball out of bounds. But frame by frame, you're able to see the little details of, well, his fingernail was on the ball, so technically it's Virginia's ball now. I feel that replay steals big moments from us. It steals incredible moments where players are doing incredible things because we want to stop the game and look at it frame by frame to make sure that we got it 100% right. And I just want to say, in sports, there is nothing that is 100% right. Sports involves a lot of skill, a lot of patience, a lot of practice, a lot of preparation, and part of sports is human error. And replay takes out human error because we want to get it 100% right, but it diminishes the product. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's just. We want to have the most fair game, but then we take away one of the biggest elements of sports in general, that humans have errors and that sports aren't going to be perfect. We try to get it 100% right all the time. You can train referees to do that, but replay takes away from the product at the end of the day. And now with all these new pass interference rules in the NFL, along with pass interference replays, it's going to hurt the defense. We've already seen defenses struggle against the new offensive tailored rules in the NFL. And with the coaches challenge in the NBA, it's going to slow down the game even more. And because of that, I think, a lot of fans aren't going to be fans of what's to come with these upcoming seasons in professional sports. VAR ruined a chance for England to tie the game because she was technically offsides by the hair of her cleat. I don't think replay should be used for the tiny minute. Replay should be used for the egregious, the obvious, the clear as day. The pass interference in the Saints-Rams game, that's what replay should be used for. Not for the hairline, ball out of bounds by a fingernail, or you're half an inch off sides. I don't know. I just don't feel that, it should be used as much as we use it now. I think the human element should remain a part of sports for a really long time. It's what drew me to sports, that nobody's going to get it 100% of the time, but professional athletes and professional referees are so good at what they do that they're able to get it 80% of the time, 90% of the time without, having to have secondary or tertiary technology. The whole idea of replay rubs me the wrong way. And I hope that we don't stray too far into it, although I fear that we already have, because instilling replay in professional sports is kind of open Pandora's box. Replay should be used in times like making sure a game winner was before the buzzer sounded. It shouldn't be used for, is that a block charge change because his feet were technically still moving if you look at it in a frame by frame, millisecond by millisecond cutout. We can't steal big moments from professional athletes over and over again because we want to call things back. I don't want us to get so caught up in replay that we lose the human element of sports, because that's what makes sports so beautiful. Just keep that in mind as we see these replay rules come to fruition later as sports start getting kicked in more and more in terms of NBA and NFL. I want to talk about the Knicks and the Nets. They've been linked to each other ever since the NBA-ABA merger. The Knicks of the two have always been seen as the better of the contemporary. They've been the bigger brother. And I want to say now that the Knicks and Nets aren't bigger and little brothers. They're twins. They mirror each other. You see, twins, though they may look identical, have differing personalities and differing traits. They could be raised in the same household, yes, but they can live completely different lives from one another. And that's the Knicks and the Nets. You see, the Knicks are the rebellious of the twins. They make impulse decisions. They don't think through their actions. They believe that everything is owed to them just because they are who they are. The Nets are the more calculated of the two. They make smart, shrewd decisions. They may go through a rough patch in life like every child does, But nonetheless, they figure it out, they learn from their mistakes, and they grow. And from that, they take note and continue to use what they've learned through those situations. The Nets did that when they made that horrible trade for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, or should I say the corpses of those two, where they gave up nearly their entire future. They learned from that and they realized they have to value assets. The Knicks, on the other hand, being the rebellious child, they take a little time to figure things out. You know, the rebellious child can go into their mid-20s without still knowing what they want to do with their life. And that's the Knicks. They haven't been good since the 70s. They've had short blips where they seem to finally be making a turnaround only to relapse into bad decisions. And finally, it looks like things are starting to change. Now, I know they just lost out on Kyrie and KD. How can you say that things are starting to change? Hear me out. The Knicks have something that they haven't had in a long time. Cap room, flexibility, and young assets. When they traded for Carmelo Anthony, they gave up all their young assets and all their cap room flexibility because they had Amari and Carmelo on the books. Carmelo signed an extension in New York that same summer. They didn't have any of the two in terms of cap room flexibility or young assets. Their team, in fact, got exponentially older. They signed Raymond Felton, went after Tyson Chandler, and they had a good 2-year run where they made the playoffs. And then things fell apart. Amari Stoudemire started getting hurt. Carmelo wasn't the same athlete he once was. But they didn't learn. They kept Carmelo on the books for as long as they could. They got Phil Jackson hoping, that things would get straightened out, but they never did. In fact, it got worse. They gave Tim Hardaway Jr. a horrible contract, Courtney Lee a horrible contract, and those guys were almost immovable. But finally, things started looking up. They got Kristaps Porzingis, a projected all-star. And then when he got disgruntled this past season, they traded him for cap space in hopes at making a run at Kyrie and KD and restoring the Mecca, making it the Eden of basketball. Yet that didn't happen. They whiffed on both of them, and instead they landed with Julius Randle, Elfrid Payton, RJ Barrett. Everything that they planned for this offseason went awry. Yet the Knicks didn't act like the Knicks. They didn't shell out bad contracts to average players. They said, all right, things didn't go our way. I'm sorry to our fans. I'm sorry that we couldn't get Kyrie and KD. But what we're going to do is we're going to give short-term 2-year deals to guys so that we retain our cap room flexibility, retain movable assets, keep our young core, and start building around RJ Barrett and Kevin Knox and Mitchell Robinson. The Knicks are finally learning from their mistakes. The glass isn't half empty to all you Knicks fans. The glass is half full. It's an actual rebuild. It's an actual reboot. It's not a quick fix, let's patch a Band-Aid on the problem and hope that it all goes away, like the Knicks used to do. They are realizing the value and importance of their young assets. They're realizing the value and importance of their cap room flexibility. And now the Knicks are primed to make a run at top-notch free agents in a much deeper 2021 free agent class. So don't lose hope and don't disdain Knicks fans. Though you may not be as good as you were projected to be going into next season, you still own your draft pick, you still own cap room flexibility, and you still have a young, talented player in RJ Barrett and a young, talented player in Mitchell Robinson and another young, talented player in Kevin Knox. Give it time. Give the process time. Maybe you guys will have to go through what Philadelphia went through, but look at where Philadelphia is today. They have 2 young studs and a roster that features Al Horford, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, and a lot of winning potential there. So the glass is half full for you Knicks fans. And look, I understand it's hard to lose talent to the crosstown rival in the Nets, but sometimes that's the reality of it. The Nets have been the younger brother that have made more calculated decisions, but that doesn't mean that you can't catch up to where they're at in life. So again, retain hope. Things are looking up for you guys, and it's not the end of the world. Knicks fans, I'm excited to see what your season holds. I'm excited to see RJ Barrett get as many touches as he wants within this offense. You have a head coach that gets behind his players, and I think that's only going to help the development of RJ Barrett. So, again, don't lose hope. The future is bright, and you may have missed out on KD and Kyrie, but who's to say that they work out perfectly in Brooklyn either? I want to flip the script and talk about the crosstown rival Nets for a second, because on last week's podcast, I was talking about how I'm happy that the Nets got KD and Kyrie, but that was before I knew all the circumstances around it. They gave DeAndre Jordan a 4-year deal, who is washed up, and I never understood why they wanted to give him such a long-term contract, especially when they already have a center on the rookie salary wage scale that does exactly what DeAndre Jordan does. That didn't make sense to me, especially that he's now eating minutes from Jared Allen, which could stunt his development. I also want to say that the Nets executed a sign and trade with D'Angelo Russell to the Warriors. And this move made no sense to me because the Nets in this situation held all the leverage. Kevin Durant already wanted to go to the Nets. He was already willing to sign there, and he took a little bit less than the max in order to get DeAndre Jordan paid. So why execute a sign and trade? Why not retain D'Angelo Russell as an asset and trade him later in free agency when teams are desperate? When teams are saying, we whiffed on all the stars that we wanted to go after, and the Nets have a star that they're shopping, and so they could get a higher price for him. I don't get why they just traded him to the Warriors for what turns out to be first-round picks. But still, the Warriors said that they're most likely going to look to move D'Angelo Russell. At least that's what a report I read said. And if that happens, the Nets lost out in that situation. They could have just retained the asset and moved him later to a desperate team that was willing to give up a whole bunch. Just the move doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I always think retain the asset and move it to a desperate team over just helping out another team. But then again, I'm not in the NBA front office, so who knows? Continuing on the theme of NBA free agency, I want to talk about Ben Simmons' contract extension. It came out to what was now seen as 5 years, I think $190 million. It's not officially signed, but that was what they agreed upon. And I think that this is a dangerous proposition for Philadelphia. Hear me out. Now, I understand Ben Simmons is a large point guard, has amazing passing vision and command of the floor. But that's all in the regular season. Ben Simmons has been a guy the past 2 years who doesn't show up in the postseason. He often is scared to shoot, doesn't have a jump shot, doesn't get downhill, and when the offense stagnates in the half court, he turns into just a dunker role, hoping to feed off of offensive rebounds and lobs. He's not the same player he is in the regular season because teams limit him in his transition opportunities. Shelling out 5 years, $190 million to a guy that can't play in the postseason, scary, especially when that guy's young, because who's to say now that he's got his money, he's going to be willing to develop a jumper, because he can now say, I didn't have a jumper before I got paid, so why do I need one now? The Sixers invested in who I am now. But then again, he's young, and the Sixers couldn't be investing in who he's projected to be. But is that projection with a jump shot or without? It's just hard for me to max out a guy who's been scared to shoot jumpers for the 3 years he's been in the NBA. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but I just think it's a risky move. But they also have this new jumbo lineup that features Al Horford, Embiid, Ben Simmons, and they could be just doubling down on that. I mean, they re-signed Tobias Harris to pair with those guys. And they could be doubling down on the fact that this is their team that they believe can win them an NBA championship because teams won't be able to match up. Now, your argument may be, oh, why don't teams just go small against them? I believe small ball is kind of overrated. So we'll see what happens. It definitely should be an exciting look for the Philadelphia 76ers. I think the Jimmy Butler move was for the positive. I know I said if Jimmy Butler wanted to win, he would stay in Philly, but obviously that's not what Jimmy Butler wanted. He wanted a retirement ceremony like Dwayne Wade. And Jimmy Butler's an eccentric, weird guy. He's known to be kind of a tough teammate. Think about what he did to Minnesota. But, I'm happy for his move to Miami, but I'm also extremely happy with what the Sixers did, making the best out of a tough situation. They got Al Horford and Tobias Harris back. They got Josh Richardson out of that sign and trade. So this team should be fun to watch, and I think they'll be a top 3 team in the East this upcoming season. Al Horford is Embiid insurance. Horford can play the 4 alongside Embiid. It should be very interesting. The next team I kind of wanted to talk about was Oklahoma City, my favorite team in the NBA. And we're just in such a tough spot. I'm going to try to refrain from saying we, but I feel almost, since I'm so emotionally invested in the team, it might slip out a couple times. But the Thunder, we're so close to being hard capped. We're going to pay the luxury tax if we don't find a way to alleviate tax pressure, which would probably most likely be moving Patrick Patterson in his mid-level exception deal. We signed Mike Muscala, who basically does everything that Patrick Patterson does on a veteran's minimum. We got Alec Burks, and I really like the Alec Burks selection because he's a 6'6" guard, shoots around 35% from 3. He should bolster the bench unit that the Thunder are going to put out there, as well as he was on a minimum deal. He's a guy that, when he was healthy, could be a good level scorer. He could get to all levels, get to the rim, work the mid-range game, and his 3-ball is there. It's still a bit inconsistent, but he wouldn't be a Thunder-type player if he wasn't an inconsistent shooter. I think that these types of moves are the types of moves that we're only able to make at this point because, again, we have no cap flexibility. We have Russell Westbrook on a super max. It's a tough situation to be in Oklahoma City because you have to stop and think, is this group able to win an NBA championship? Is there a point in paying the luxury tax for a team that isn't going to be a sure thing to make the finals? The window for Oklahoma City is now. If you're going to pay the luxury tax anytime in the NBA, it should be now, unless Kawhi Leonard goes to LA. If Kawhi Leonard goes to LA, they become the prohibitive favorites to win the West and probably win an NBA championship. But if Kawhi Leonard doesn't go to LA and stays in Toronto or goes to the Clippers, then the window is now. This is as most parity as you're ever going to get in the NBA with teams that can compete and win a championship. But guys like Dennis Schroeder, Hamidou Diallo, Alec Burks, alongside Paul George and Russell Westbrook, can those guys really get it done? Can Russell Westbrook hit some outside jump shots when it comes down to the playoffs? Or is his contract effectively going to cripple us when we're paying him almost $54 million in the last year of his deal? I love Russell Westbrook as much as the next guy. I've defended him, and I have this emotional implication to always defend him no matter what happens in his career. But you can't excuse the fact that his contract cripples us. And this 2-year window where this parity might exist within the NBA is the only 2-year window I feel we have left with Russell Westbrook being our franchise marquee ticket sales guy to ever win a championship. Because Paul George's contract is up in 2021. And if we don't make it out of the first round this year or next year, what is enticing him to stay? Because what's driving Paul George is winning championships. We were really good when Paul George was healthy. Watching the Thunder play, it was exciting. We would have these come-from-behind wins. But then Paul George's shoulder started to bother him, and our offense started to bother me. When Paul George wasn't making shots, they just doubled down on Westbrook, clogged the paint. And guys like Nerlens Noel, Steven Adams aren't floor spacers. And it begs me to question, what do we do with Steven Adams? We just re-signed Nerlens Noel. We got a floor spacer, kinda, in Mike Muscala. Is Steven Adams on the move? Is that going to be our salary dumping move to avoid the luxury tax? If so, where would we trade him in? And what possible trade pieces could we get back that could do exactly what Steven Adams does for us? I feel that his value with the Oklahoma City Thunder is higher than his value with any other team, but he's still grossly overpaid, set to make $27 million for a guy that is a 9 to 14 point a game scorer in a 8 to 10 rebound per game guy. You could find guys like that on the rookie wage scale in the draft. It's a tough place to be if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because are you truly competing? If so, then you have to spend and you have to pay that luxury tax and maybe just double down that this 2-year window with this same roster is what you're going to get out of it. And that if it doesn't happen within these 2 years, you just scrap it down and rebuild from the ground up. But if you're not aiming to compete, in what ways can we dodge the luxury tax? We'll see what happens with the Oklahoma City Thunder. A healthy Paul George and healthy Russell Westbrook are as good as anybody and can play with almost anybody in the league. With the Warriors losing Klay Thompson until maybe the end of next season, it could be now or never. And that reality is starting to hit me as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan because growing up, we were making Western Conference Final after Western Conference Final. We could rely on Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook to always make a push come postseason time. We were always top 3 in the West. And these past couple years with just Russell Westbrook has been a different story. It's been erratic. You go on 10-game win streaks and followed by 5-game losing streaks. You hold the top 4 seed in the West for half the year, only to somehow drop to 6 or 7 with a week left in the season. You have enthralling and exciting nights where Russell Westbrook gets 30, 40 points, 10, 15 assists, 10 rebounds. Then you also have the 20 point, 8 assists, 9 turnover, 7 for 25 shooting nights. It's just the life of an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. It's up and down, side to side. You're never really sure what Sam Presti has up his sleeve. And I'm hoping he has something drastic that he can get great value for Steven Adams and we can dodge the tax line while also getting a serviceable player that will fit better with the team that we have now. But we're stuck in no man's land. We're stuck in the desert of the NBA. Not necessarily good enough to win a championship, but never bad enough to be in the lottery. Another interesting team in the wake of the first really 3 or 4 days of free agency has been the Pelicans. I always thought Al Horford was going to be a great fit there, but he ended up signing with the Sixers. But the Pelicans got JJ Redick on a really good deal. And he kind of matches the shooting that they desperately needed with that lineup. And they also got Derek Favors from the Utah Jazz. And would it be scary or dangerous of me to say that the Pelicans could be a playoff team this year? I'm not saying a high-seeded playoff team, but an 8th seed in the West. But then you have to play the game of who do you kick out, right? And do you think the Pelicans could beat out the Clippers for the last seed in the playoffs? I don't know. But I'm saying that it's a possibility at this point. With the good mix of veterans and young guys that they have there, along with the play of Zion, we'll see how he plays in his rookie year. But this Pelicans team, what they're doing, what they've done this offseason is exciting. And I know it feels good to be a New Orleans fan because you know the direction of your team. You know what to expect going forward. And you have one of the best prospects that we've ever seen since Anthony Davis or LeBron James. I want to talk about Messi and LeBron. Now, I already know I drew a comparison to Neymar and Kyrie, but watching Argentina play in the Copa America semifinal last night kind of reassured me that in terms of what they do for their respective sports, Messi and LeBron are on level. And what happens to their teams a lot of times when they make it to this big stage is on level as well. Last night, Argentina lost to Brazil 2-0. And it marks another international trophy that Messi missed out on. And it's not for lack of him trying, because last night it looked like he was one of the few players with a sense of urgency and a want to win. I mean, I distinctively remember him getting the ball near the right edge of the box, dribbling through 5 people, all to lead to a chance that was a missed volley. Couldn't even place a foot on it. And Messi, in a lot of these international big stages, falls short. And it's not because he doesn't try or he doesn't put his team in the best position to win. I mean, he had a ball that crossed the goal line, a perfect cross where one of his teammates just needed to put a foot on it, and it would have been tied 1-1, and they couldn't. He had another chance in the second half where he dribbled through three people, had a shot saved by the goalkeeper, then smacked the post. And it's these chances he creates time and time again that leads me to wonder why, even though Argentina on paper has a really good team, do they always fall short when it matters? And I realize that Argentina is a collection of good to great players, and Messi being the best player in the world, but they never play like a team. See, Argentina gets so used to Messi being the end-all, be-all, and gets so used to him doing everything that in these big moments, when teams key in on Messi, they keep him from doing everything, and he just needs one other person to do what they're supposed to do. They're unable to do so. When you've been conditioned to act a certain way or do something a certain way, it's hard to break that conditioning. It takes reverse conditioning. But Argentina doesn't have that. They don't play like a team. They're a team of collections of great players that don't actually play like a team, play as one unit, and that's what you need in soccer. You need 11 guys on the same page, willing to go to war for each other. And though Argentina does want to win for Messi because he's had a career of disappointments on the international stage, they don't know how to do it as a team. And that's why Argentina always loses these big games. Because in this Copa America semifinal, there were 20 minutes between the 50th and 70th minute where Argentina got 3 or 4 chances where they were playing like a team. Everybody was moving the ball, touching, cutting into space. And then it seemingly just stops. When the pressure gets put onto Argentina, they revert to old habits. And old habits are watching Messi do everything, hoping that you can get away with on his greatness. And that eerily mirrors LeBron James's on the basketball court career. See, LeBron, arguably the best player ever. If him and Jordan are one, he may be 1A, 1B, whichever way you see it. But the LeBron system could have cost LeBron 1 or 2 championships. Now, I know LeBron's never been the favorite in a lot of his finals. But if a team can play as a team, they can always overachieve. Vegas odds, people's opinions, the beliefs coming into that series. However, the LeBron system's much like the Messi system. It starts and ends with him. If it's not LeBron scoring, it's LeBron assisting. If it's not LeBron assisting, it's LeBron drawing up the play. It's LeBron coaching. It's LeBron being the GM. And with a system that's end-all, be-all with one player, when that one player is figured out, it makes it tough on the team because they've been conditioned to sit back in this one spot and watch greatness work. It's why LeBron has lost some of the finals amidst his greatness. He elevates his players to a certain degree, but in doing so, he also harms them. They get the freedom to sit and stand in the corner, watch LeBron draw 2 or 3 and get an open shot. But at the same time, when you're not consistently touching the ball in an offensive rhythm, you're going to be cold. And the likelihood that you make that open shot that LeBron just drew up for you is very low. And that's the reality between Messi and LeBron. They're so good that you have to tailor your entire offense around them. But at the same time, they're so good that the team that they're on gets so customary to just watching them create that they don't know how to react when the pressure's put on them. It's an interesting take. I really hope that in next year's Copa America, Argentina can figure it out and get Messi an international trophy. If you made it to this point in the podcast, you made it to the end. If you found anything I said here entertaining, enlightening, just fun to listen to, share it with your friends. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube now. It's all interesting. We're putting this podcast everywhere. But as always, may the rest of your day be the best of your day. Thank you for listening. Make sure to follow me on social media. My Twitter is at Ian K, and my Instagram is Ian_KAYJAY. As always, stay mellow.